let's bring in a man who has both worked for the former president and has been a big surrogate for him during the campaign. Dr. Ben Carson, his former presidential candidate himself and a former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and always one of my favorite guests. Great to have you back with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always good to be with you, Vince. Thanks.
Of course. Sir, you've been through this process. Once you get past Iowa and you see a candidate win that big, what are the other campaigns thinking?
They may be thinking that maybe they can work toward a vice presidency or another cabinet position. Mm-hmm. But, it's clear that the American people are speaking loudly and clearly because they understand what's going on. They're not stupid. And they know that if we allow the left to use our justice system to eliminate their most fierce opponent, America will never be the same again.
The media have been saying for a year now that they can't believe Trump is doing as well as he is. In fact, they keep saying that his success is coming in spite of the prosecution against him. I think they're getting it backwards, Dr. Carson. I think that those prosecutions have made people like him more.
Absolutely. And they've made him stop. And, the people who don't like his personality or think he's a little too brash, I ask those people, would you rather have somebody whose language sometimes offends you, but who has policies that defend your freedom and improve your life? Or would you rather have somebody with a silver tongue who causes nothing but chaos in your society?
Yes. Yeah. I'd rather know who the man I'm dealing with is the answer. This is why I always prefer Donald Trump's tweets. As uncomfortable as maybe any one of his tweets might make us, I'd rather have a president that communicates with the American public than one that keeps secrets from us.
Absolutely, and one that says what he's going to do, and makes every effort to improve the lives of all Americans. One of the things I appreciate most about him is instead of getting involved in all these identity politics things, he believes that a rising tide lifts all boats. He does things that helps Americans, all Americans. And that makes a huge difference.
Do you, on the issue of identity politics, and we'll keep talking about politics generally with you because I have a lot of questions for you, sir. But on identity politics, do you get the sense that the left is on the ropes right now? I'm thinking in particular of this saga with Harvard University and Claudine Gay, and just all the nonsense around that. And she couldn't even condemn calling for the genocide of Jews, and then subsequently she plagiarized a ton of her work. And I think the fraudulence of the identity politics regime is really exposed for a lot of people now.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I think in academia, but also in the business world, you're seeing people starting to push back against DEI because it doesn't make sense. What they basically are saying is it's more important that you check this box than that you look out for the stockholders. And, that was the whole purpose of the ISS and Glass Lewis, to look out for the health of the company and the benefit of the stockholders. They're doing just the opposite when they say, we don't care what's good for your stockholders and what's good for your company. You got to check our box.
It's wild that that's happening. On the issue of politics and the presidential campaign, I have to ask, I've been telling our audience I would, that about the likeliness that you will be a part of a future Trump administration, including as his running mate. That's your name keeps popping up as somebody who would be a very viable vice presidential candidate. In fact, I'm one of the people who keep saying that I think you'd be perfectly suited for the role. Is that something you would do if given the opportunity?
Well, I think it's kind of a distraction because what we really got to do is get Donald Trump reelected. And then once that's done, all of those conversations become appropriate at that point.
Well, the issue of a vice president is very much something that's considered prior to that, though. You would be on the ticket with him ahead of that election. Is that a conversation you've had with anybody, and perhaps him?
I stick to my policy of not talking about our conversations. We've had a lot of conversations. We talked today. He is really committed to getting our country back on track. I'm committed to that. I know there are a number of other people. And when it comes to deciding who's going to be working closely with him, he's learned a lot from what happened in the previous administration that he had, in terms of people who are loyal and who are on the same page versus people who are just looking for a ladder to climb.
Yeah, this would be a big deal if he gets reelected. This is the final term he can serve. It'll be his second term as president of the United States, and you do think that he has taken some meaningful lessons from his first go around, that in order to prevent some of the challenges he faced in the first place.
Yeah, no question about it. The people that you put around you makes all the difference in the world in terms of how successful you're going to be, because there are so many things going on. No one person can possibly keep up with them, and you have to have trustworthy people around you.
So if I could expand the question then, because I know you won't talk specifically about being a running mate then at the moment, could you envision working in a future Trump administration in any capacity?
I will always help his administration. When we were running against each other, we made a pact that whichever one of us won, the other one would be a part of their administration or would be a large part of a group that helps them.
And you especially, it was this time in that cycle that you had a very strong candidacy. It was the Iowa caucuses, all the drama around that. I won't force you to relive all of it, but I remember how close you became to Donald Trump during that period. And in fact, one of the images that sometimes I chuckle about is the two of you standing together on that debate stage and waiting to walk out together. Trump sees you standing there, not yet out the chute, and says, "I'm standing here with Dr. Ben Carson, and we're waiting together." I thought that was a great moment.
And everybody else happily walked past.
Yeah, every single one. No one else gave you the respect that Donald Trump did.
And he was the only one who complained to the media when they wouldn't ask me questions. The others were glad they weren't asking me questions.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it shows you the character of the man. And I've seen the way that he treats people. He treats employees. That's why they love him so much.
What do you make of the left's chatter right now that Donald Trump is destined to be a dictator? One of the many reasons I say it's ridiculous is he was already president. It's not like we don't have something to check out. He was president. In fact, he left on Inauguration Day. He was grumpy about it, but he left. He went off to Mar-a-Lago. What do you make of the dictator talk coming out of the left right now?
Well, as you know, the left always projects. They always accuse you of what they're doing or aiming to do. I mean, look how dictatorial they became in just a short period of time with the mandates and telling us, what kind of car you can drive. They want to tell you what kind of appliances you can have. This is not what the United States is about. It's about a place where people can live freely and pursue, their dreams freely, not with somebody always mandating what they have to do. That's why people left other countries and came here in the first place. And
it's also, I mean, to add to your point on projection, it's also amazing to watch as the left is straight up banishing Donald Trump from ballots across the country right now and saying that they're doing it in defense of democracy.
I mean, if they can't see that, and I think they know what they're doing, but the mistake that they're making is that they're assuming that the American people are stupid and that they can't see what's going on. That's the big mistake. They will look back at some point and recognize that was what destroyed them.
Gosh, I hope so. I hope so. I hope people can realize what's happening here because it is tyrannical. It truly is. And so do you think? Let me on the issue of how we deal with this tyranny in the intervening time between right now and an inauguration day next year. We're watching as Republicans in the House are trying to bring forward impeachment proceedings, both against Alejandro Mayorkas and then broadly there's an impeachment inquiry against Joe Biden. First and foremost, do you think that they're deserving of impeachment? And secondly, is it politically smart to be undertaking an impeachment right down during an election year? The history of impeachments, to include both Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, is that both men became more popular as the impeachment was wearing on. So there are some political considerations here, too.
Well, in the case of Mayorkas, he has completely shirked his duties, and it's impacting the American people in a very negative way.
Yes.
And I would not just let that slide by for political expediency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as Biden is concerned, you know, why impeach him? I mean, what if you were successful and you got him out of office? What do you get then?
Don't say it. I don't want to hear that. Don't you say Kamala Harris. I don't want to hear those words. But you're right about that. That would be the impact of it. And of course, the Senate is not going to actually convict, you know, if the House does pass an impeachment against Joe Biden. But boy, I tell you what, the corruption here is pretty obvious. And the way that the Biden family has derived financial benefit out of Biden's access to power throughout his career is about as clear as it gets now. And yet you still have a media saying there's no evidence.
They've done the classical things for hiding money transfers and laundering things. And if that's not evidence, what is it?
Yeah.
I mean, they should be asking them, well, if you weren't doing this to accrue money for yourselves, why were you doing it? What was the purpose? I'd love to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, so would we. Donald Trump tried to ask some questions about that. They impeached him. He just raised the question and they impeached him again. What are your plans, Dr. Ben Carson, in the weeks and months ahead when it comes to the campaign trail? Should we expect to see you more campaigning for Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah, I'll be out there. No question about it. Because would I prefer to be relaxing and doing something less stressful? Of course. But we're talking about our nation.
Yeah.
We're talking about what's going to happen to our children and our grandchildren and all the people who come after us. And we have to think about the people who came before us and the sacrifices they made so that we could live in peace and freedom. So, yes, I will most definitely be out there vigorously campaigning.
And lastly, if you have any announcements to make, would you, maybe give us a little bit of a tip-off before they go public?
I'll keep that in mind.
All right, keep it in mind. Thank you very much. This means a lot coming from a brain surgeon. Thank you, sir. It's really nice to talk to you, as always.
Always good to be with you.
All right.